So many of us starved of inspiration, tired of the bad news in our headlines day after day. Finally comes a story to be inspired by and inspired from. Also, a story of extreme relatability. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story, and on the program today, we're going to bring you the story of Sarala Muralidharan. She is Kerala's Chief Secretary, in other words, Kerala's top IAS officer. But in a unique coincidence, she happened to succeed her husband, Dr. Venu, as she stepped into the post of Kerala Chief Secretary. And then, to her horror, she found comparisons with her husband that revealed both sexism and racism. Yes, racism. There is no other word for it. In fact, in one comparison, her tenure was described as quote unquote as dark as that of her husband was white. Sarla Muralidharan then decided to call out something that she'd been facing all of her entire lifetime to be precise, something that millions of women across India face: the bias against the color of her skin. A bias that she has grappled with since she was 4 years old, and she asked her mother if she could possibly be reborn, this time with fairer skin. Her post on Facebook broke a million, or I would say a billion hearts. She then deleted her post. But then, when she realized the impact that it had, she went public with it again. Imagine this is what one of India's most accomplished women has to face. Can you even imagine what it might be like for those who do not have Sarala's privilege, education, and confidence? To talk about her story in her own words, I'm pleased to welcome to our program today Sarla Muralidharan, Kerala's Chief Secretary, the top IAS officer of the state, and despite all of her achievements, a woman who has to deal with not just gender bias, which is, I think, routine across professions, but colorism, racism. Thank you, ma'am, for A, joining us, B, for saying what you did so publicly, so boldly, so bravely. I want to start by this comparison that somebody made, that your term was as quote unquote dark as that of your husband may have been white. When you heard this comment, when this comment was repeated to you, as somebody who has faced bias about the color of your skin pretty much all your life, did it make you angry? Did it make you sad? What was that last straw that finally made you go public and say what you did?
Well, I was just taken aback because it was made in jest. I mean, I don't think it was meant with the intention of putting me down. So it was the inherent bias there that took me by surprise, and the fact that you were, I've had comparisons with my husband. I've had also experienced what it was to be dark in a world that preferred white. So, but having the two conflated and taking the color of my skin into the nature of the administration I do, that was rather surprising. So which was, that rankled, and I wanted to get it out, which is why I first just put it out there, and then the response was so overwhelming that I was okay. I really don't want to get into a controversy just a month into retirement, so I pulled it back. And but a lot of people, including friends from the media, said, you've raised an issue that needs to be discussed, and I felt that, yeah, I mean, if not me, who would? So that's why.
So it is, of course, unusual that you became Kerala Chief Secretary right after, in a way, stepping into your husband's sort of, as his term ended, yours began. But you had a double whammy, as they say, right? You were compared as a woman to a man, and then you were compared with with a non-fair. I don't even want to say dark because it comes with its own implications. Because of the color of your skin, you also faced implications. And somewhere in your post, you said a woman with dark skin, for a woman to express herself in any case is difficult. A woman who is not fair, a woman with dark skin, it's almost as if she's invisible. Talk about how a woman as powerful as yourself and accomplished as yourself, power deriving from your profession, not anything else, from your own accomplishments. Why you felt invisible? Why did you feel invisible?
Well, I want to make a point, and that's that, I've been chief secretary only for 7 months. but I've been Sharda Muralidharan all my life, and Sharda Muralidharan is a person who's been, who's been black and who's found it difficult to be seen, um, and has had to, compensate. Uh, it's funny though. In conversations, you are not seen. In But at the same time, at the railway station, when you're leaving with a ticket, you're the one who gets caught all the time. It's it's rather interesting. I mean, and I wondered, do I look like somebody who is cheating? Who's trying to beat the system? Because once I can understand, but if it is a consistent thing that every single time it's me, then it's about uh, the system recognizing me as something who needs to be, who is labeling me in some way or the other. So, but I would like to clarify here that when I talk about this comparison, there is a reason why this comparison is made, which is that I work in a bureaucracy and in a political system where there are more men than women, and so you find that I find it so much more easy to be informal with my women colleagues and with my women political leadership. I do not have that kind of a relationship generally with male colleagues. My husband, on the other hand, has finds it he's comfortable with his female colleagues, but he has a fabulous rapport with the male colleagues that he works with, and also with the political leadership. You will find that therefore there is this complete sense of formality in which I engage, and a complete sense of informality which he is able to bring into. Um,
So you have, ma'am, made two different points, and I'm going to address them separately. First, you say on one hand you feel being female, and then with the color of your skin, you are both invisible and picked upon. That is the dichotomy. So, and many times you're invisible. On the other hand, you are sometimes treated as a person who could be breaking the law because it's just assumed that the color of your skin makes you someone who might be circumventing the system. So that's the first irony you talk about, which is based on the color of your skin. The second is your gender, being female. Now, I will tell you that in journalism, which continues to be male dominated, at least in positions of leadership, politics continues to be male dominated in terms of how many men there are. As a journalist, I can't have the backslapping, smoking corners, drink out, bro evenings that my male colleagues can. A number of male interviewers have a very different relationship with the people they interview than I do. So I hear you. My point is, how does somebody like you prevent, you know, how do you stop yourself from being bitter? Because, like, sometimes I just find I'm so angry all the time.
huh. Well, there is protection in being in the service, and there's a hierarchy that isn't challenged.
Yeah.
And that hierarchy, so irrespective of whether you're female or male, that hierarchy is respected. So there is that comfort, you do have a comfort space, a comfort zone, when you are in the civil administration. But that being said, it still is, I mean, I have found it necessary to stop male colleagues from dissing what my female colleagues are saying, to provide protection and space for them to speak out, because sometimes you see all this, the difference of not having these kind of social spaces to engage with actually affects how you articulate things. I mean, some people have amazing articulation skills nonetheless, but others don't. And being able to say that someone who isn't speaking quite your language still has something to say, is for me, from the fact that I am in a position of power, helps me to enable that.
Yeah. So I found the most heartbreaking anecdote from your very personal post, when harking back to when you were a child. you were a child of 4, and you say to your mother, "Can I be born again, this time with a different color skin?" How does a child of 4 internalize the bias and be aware of it? What
Uh,
happened? Do you remember growing up with, taunts and disapproval and comments on the color of your skin and advice to use lightening cosmetics? Take us through those early years. I mean, you were 4 years old.
yeah, well, this is anecdotally. This is what I've told. I'm told that I have said. I've also been told that I've gone around asking my lighter skin relations, aunties, as to what soap they use, so that I could, make myself more presentable. It's The reason I put that out there was to just to show that how early this begins. And there are many people, who said, "Why are you reacting to this, to some petty comment? What's your problem? You really don't need to." And I'm sure you've had faced much more comments of this kind in your career. So why are you reacting to this? And I feel, and I was looking at all those people who did say that. Many of them were men, and most of them were not black. So it I feel is comes from an unknown, actually unrecognized place of privilege. The place of non-privilege is where you are constantly, all your life, told that, shown that you are some way inferior because you don't have the right color tone. And you learn to navigate that. You learn to live with it. You also learn to normalize it. Unfortunately, you internalize it as well. You internalize it so much that it's not just about being defensive about being black, but looking around and seeing goodness in white, and not noticing the goodness in black.
Did you, what is your earliest memory? I mean, you said that you have been told by the elders in your family that when you were 4 years old, you asked your mother if you could be reborn, that you went around asking relatives, what soap do you use? But your own earliest memory, conscious memory of feeling inadequate, of feeling inferior, of feeling less than, because clearly that is the impact that it had. And which is why I think after years and decades of feeling this and then reaching the top post that you possibly can in your cadre in your state, still hearing that taunt, I'm sure it opened the floodgates. But what is your earliest conscious memory of feeling that inferiority based on nothing but the color of your skin?
uh, I would say it's been, playing with my cousins, my relations, and and then compared with them. It's those comparisons that get made, and realizing that somehow, um, you don't uh, you aren't you aren't given good food. You find that someone else is getting all the attention and you're not, and you wonder why. As
Even
a
food,
child, you don't
even
understand why you're
food.
not getting attention.
I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but even food, did it impact food also? You
Well,
mentioned
food,
food.
I wouldn't say it's about color, but I would certainly say about gender in those days, very early days.
How does that impact a girl's confidence?
Pretty much, pretty much. There are ways in which I mean, each of us respond to this differently. Some of us get more aggressive, some of
Mhm.
us get more evasive, some of us build deep armor. Uh, and some of us try to compensate. If you're saying, if you're not good in this, let's show ourselves to be better at something. And you've got to go the extra mile to prove yourself.
So, did you grow up feeling, and please forgive me for using this word, it's a word I hate, but it's a word that society uses, and therefore we internalize it to measure ourselves. Did you grow up feeling ugly?
Mm, in bits and pieces, yes.
And how did you
But
talk
also,
yourself
I've
up?
also tried to tell myself that I'm not. And, at home, specifically, in my nuclear home, um, there's been a level of protection. But then the moment you step out of that into the larger family, things change drastically.
Yeah. So, your very moving post talks about embracing and owning your blackness. That's the phrase you use. You also use very evocative words to describe the power of black, being the color of kajal, the hint of rain. If I'm just summarizing, so I may get a couple of words wrong. And that was so lovely for me because I love both kajal and rain, which I am named after. Where do you then draw your confidence from? We live in such a social media image fueled society, even more than when you and I were growing up. Today, anybody who's on Instagram, and your children will be on Instagram. Instagram has filters. You can use filters to make yourself fairer, to make yourself look like nothing that you actually look like, right? The image is everything today. So, what does a woman, a highly accomplished professional, economically autonomous woman, have to tell herself to not lose her balance, to not lose her self esteem, to not lose her sense of self?
No, for me, the fact that in my career, I've had a fairly good run. So that definitely has helped. And when you say you've got a good run, it also means that you build friendships and solidarities across, over time, and those friendships have always helped to temper any um, sense of neglect, or of inadequacy that comes in from other corners, both intended and not intended. That helps, I think. So
Yeah.
friendships help. Friendships can also sometimes be a little bit suffocating, but friendships do help.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you would have noticed that there'd be a whole host of people who come out. My intention was not really to parade the fact that I felt hurt by this. I thought it was about a good time that you just broke this indoctrination that we've had about thinking of black as bad, and rewrite the narrative, an opportunity to rewrite the narrative. So, but many friends of mine didn't quite see it that way. They felt that there was hurt there, and then they needed to say that, you know what, you are validated. We see you, we hear you, and you're good enough for us. So that kind of thing was so. Yeah, it's nice in a way that you have so many people having your back.
But when you talk about rewriting the narrative, I was just thinking, even the way we are taught language, we are taught metaphors, we read our books, right? So, black humor, black is the color of evil. You say
Black heart.
as dark as that, right? Black heart, black tongue. I mean, when you think aloud of language and how we have constructed the idea of black, you're quite right that it's embedded in our culture without even our noticing it. It's not conscious bias always.
True, completely. And which is what I want to challenge, because we see that in gender. We've been noticing about the gender, how the bias in gender has crept into language, and there's this whole tome of feminism which has been able to talk about that and expose it. And I think, as far as colorism is concerned, we need to do the very same thing.
Can you talk about how this debate has played out in your own home? You say in the nuclear family, your partner and your children, there is protection. In the extended family, not so much. Do you still have the sort of well-intentioned aunties and uncles who will comment on the color of your skin, or maybe on the color of your children's skin?
Absolutely.
It still exists.
It exists, and I'm sure it exists in every household that
Sure.
in this
Yeah.
country. So we are no different.
Were you told or advised to do some crazy things to change the color of your skin? Put this on, sleep with this on. If you do this, it'll change. Use this makeup foundation.
Well, I was adamant that I would not use makeup most of my life. So, so, and because of the fact that I was also seen as someone who was very studious and not quite, uh, into being big on family, I was. It was maybe that was my way of protecting myself too, because there
Yeah.
are, uh, and you find uh, because of that, I've not had too much of that. I've certainly had a lot of well wishers coming and tucking my bra in.
People are so embarrassed by the bra and that strap that slips out of every blouse that any woman has ever worn, and the embarrassment that they feel on your behalf. You're feeling none of it, but they will feel it on your behalf.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you react? How do you react when people do that?
Well, let's say in when I was younger, I was quite irritated, but
Yeah.
growing older, I'm quite a lot more indulgent about that,
Yeah.
because I also see the love, the affection, and the desire for them to see Chechi or Madam look perfect. So,
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think as you grow older, you feel so much freer from so many things that made you angry because you're more comfortable in your own skin. Finally, ma'am, I totally agree with you that everybody who said to you, why are you reacting, was coming from a place of privilege. And in comparison to them, both on the account of having to battle sexism and colorism, you were non-privileged. But compared to other women in the country, you are very privileged, right? You and I come from a place of privilege. We are highly educated, we are financially independent, we have been brought up to think for ourselves. We are a minority. How do we carry these things that we believe to women and girls who do not have our privilege?
um, and that's one of the reasons also why I came out with this post. It was also about reaching out to people who felt insecure, and not just because of colorism or gender. I mean, there are multiple things. It could be, I mean, there's a lot of body shaming that happens in our
Mhm.
society. There have been, people who said that, I've been very conscious about the fact that I'm losing hair and I'm bald, and so there are multiple things, and it's like all of us, it's like the world people want to to homogenize ourselves into one kind of gold
That's right.
standard, which is absolutely wrong. What makes us unique as a species is our diversity. Is the fact that within this homogenic DNA structure that we have, we also happen to be extremely diverse, and that diversity is something which needs to be celebrated, because every element of diversity is an element of beauty, and that's something that we need
Yeah,
to recognize. And
absolutely.
yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the that's a message I mean, that's what I would like to convey, which I think that from a position of um, I mean, there is a sense of lack of privilege, but there is also, that you are in a place where which what you say matters, and therefore let
Yeah,
let
role
my words.
models. It's absolutely. How have you, as a parent, tried to mold your children to have a different upbringing when it comes to color and gender than you did?
Well, I'm very proud to say that both my daughter and son are feminists, and both of them also. It's funny, my daughter's response to what I had written was that, you know, you protected us from the noise that was outside, and
Yeah.
we saw dark skin as something that comes out from being in the sun and from playing and from enjoying life. That's
Hmm.
our association darkness. So, getting a heavy tan, going out there was something to enjoy and be proud of, and not to. I mean, there was no point in time in which you felt that that becoming darker than what you already were was something to be bothered about. So that is one point of it. The other was the fact that it's also about inclusion and accepting everyone for who they are, and keeping that narrative of equity very strong inside the household. Because once you have that, then you can take on anything.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you to you personally, because I think that not enough of us who are in a position to speak. Sometimes we think, oh, it's too much of a headache. People will bring their own opinions, or how irritating, how tiring. But it's important because really we can speak. Not everybody can. And so the fact that we can and speak on our own terms, I think, is still rare in our country. So Sarada Muralidharan, Kerala Chief Secretary, for speaking out on colorism and sexism. Thank you. More power to you. And really, you've made our day with that post, because it's such a powerful, moving, evocative, and honest and authentic, unvarnished set of sentiments. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.